oil refinery southeast of Moscow, a drone components factory 900 kilometers from Ukraine, a gas terminal near St. Petersburg.
The explosions started before dawn, Ukraine's deep strike in Crimea, the night the shield shook. Before dawn, the silence over Crimea fractured.
The defense forces have weakened the enemy's combat capabilities of the enemy and temporarily occupied Crimea. In particular, they struck 2 Russian border patrol hunter ships.
Residents across the occupied peninsula woke to the sound of distant detonations. First tremors, then shockwaves rolling across the coast, shattering windows and stirring nerves. Moments later came the flashes, sudden, sharp, unmistakable arcs along the horizon. To seasoned observers, these weren't the signature sparks of a typical drone raid. Open-source analysts soon converged on one conclusion. This strike was aimed at something far more consequential than a warehouse or fuel depot. It targeted one of Russia's most prized coastal defense assets. If confirmed, this operation marks a pivotal shift in the Black Sea theater, a direct assault on Moscow's strategic confidence. Crimea, anchor and shield. For Moscow, Crimea is not just occupied territory. Since its 2014 annexation, the peninsula has served as the beating heart of Russia's southern military strategy. It hosts the Black Sea Fleet, radar installations, long-range aviation squadrons, and sophisticated layers of air defense. Coastal missile complexes line its shores, designed to repel NATO ships and seal off Ukrainian naval activity. At the center of that defensive architecture sits the Bastion system, Russia's crown jewel in coastal denial warfare. Each Bastion battery fires the P-800 Onyx, a supersonic anti-ship missile capable of reaching targets 300 kilometers away at speeds topping Mach 2.5. It hugs the sea, evades radar, and maneuvers violently in its final approach. For over a decade, Bastion has defined Russia's keep-out zone across the Black Sea. Until now. The strike heard across the peninsula. According to open-source reporting, Ukrainian long-range weapons, a mix of cruise missiles and kamikaze drones, struck a concentration area belonging to the 15th Separate Coastal Missile Brigade, the very unit operating Bastion launchers within the Black Sea Fleet. Not a radar, not a warehouse, a missile brigade. Satellite imagery and field reports suggest the strike hit where vehicles, launchers, and command units were staged in semi-prepared positions, close enough for coordinated launch operations, but vulnerable if discovered. If even part of this assessment proves accurate, Ukraine didn't just target hardware. It pierced the core of Russia's maritime denial network. A pattern of precision. This was no isolated attack. Across the same night, explosions were recorded across several fronts. In Nizhnaya Krinka, Donetsk region, a major Russian ammunition depot was destroyed. In Velika Novosilka, a military equipment warehouse went up in flames. In Pokrovka, a UAV control center tied to an airborne assault regiment was reportedly obliterated. Hundreds of kilometers further east, kamikaze drones reached Tatarstan, striking the Kalekino oil pumping station, a key node in the Druzhba export pipeline, one of Russia's main arteries for European crude exports. And deeper into Russian territory, in Saratov, Voronezh, and Belgorod, electrical substations suffered hits, triggering widespread power disruptions. From the coastline to the Russian heartland, the pattern was unmistakable. Precision layered across geography, designed to stretch defenses and expose systemic strain, cracking the shell of Crimea's defenses. For nearly 2 years, Russia has maintained one of the densest air defense networks on the planet over Crimea. Long-range S-400 and S-300 systems, short-range Pantsir S-1s, and powerful electronic warfare suites together form a lethal dome. Yet Ukrainian strike packages continue to penetrate it, a demonstration not of luck, but of tactical evolution. Ukrainian operations now weave together multiple attack vectors: low-flying missiles, drone swarms, electronic interference, and timing calibrated to radar gaps or human fatigue. The result is cumulative degradation, a doctrine of precision through saturation. And here lies Bastion's critical vulnerability. While powerful offensively, it depends on that dome for survival. The launcher trucks themselves have minimal defense. Strike the command nodes, the radar links, the communications vehicles, or the ammunition reload systems, and the weapon becomes an inert statue. A well-placed cruise missile inside a concentration area doesn't just cause destruction, it ignites chain reactions, secondary explosions that cripple entire operations in minutes. The strategic ripple. The Bastion system symbolizes Russia's confidence in its maritime control. If those systems can no longer be trusted to survive in Crimea's safe zones, the calculus for both fleets changes. For Ukraine, reduced Bastion coverage means more freedom of movement for naval drones and possible re-entry into contested waters. For Russia, it means constant redeployment pressure, costly convoys, resurveyed terrain, recalibrated targeting circles, and reduced launch efficiency. Every movement increases exposure. Every exposure expands Ukraine's targeting window. The war beyond the front. Beyond the coastline, Ukraine's simultaneous attacks on energy nodes and electrical substations are part of a systematic deep strike campaign. Striking Tatarstan's oil infrastructure or substation networks in Belgorod doesn't seek immediate collapse. It slowly corrodes logistical integrity. Power outages impede rail transfers. Damaged oil facilities reduce fuel supply chains. Disrupted command centers slow reactive communication. Each hit creates friction, and friction over time becomes fatigue. Russia must now decide which critical sectors to defend. Reinforce Crimea, and Moscow weakens its heartland. Protect industrial zones, and coastal assets remain exposed. It's the strategic dilemma of every overstretched empire. Cover everything, and nothing is truly safe. The shrinking umbrella. Russia's advanced air defense systems, like the S-400, are powerful but finite. Each redeployment to defend rear infrastructure leaves other sectors vulnerable. Analysts call this stretching the umbrella. Spread protection too wide, and gaps appear everywhere. Sanctions make this worse. Replacing lost Bastion vehicles or S-400 components isn't quick. Modern missile parts rely on restricted high-tech imports. Production delays translate into weaker operational redundancy, a slow erosion of deterrence. Adaptation in motion. Expect Russia to respond with dispersion, spreading Bastion units into smaller, more concealed positions, deploying decoys, and ramping up electronic camouflage. But dispersion reduces efficiency. A fragmented defense fires fewer missiles in unison and suffers from coordination lag. Meanwhile, Ukraine will likely sustain multi-domain pressure, targeting ammunition, command centers, logistics, and energy, eroding resilience one layer at a time. The goal isn't annihilation, it's exhaustion, the battlefield of systems. This entire dynamic reveals the new face of war. The Black Sea is no longer defined by ships and airfields, but by networks of sensors, drones, data, and logistics. Each node struck weakens an interconnected web. The Bastion system once symbolized assurance, a hard edge projecting dominance. Now, its vulnerability signals a transition towards contested reach. Ukraine's long-range drones can now strike as far as Bastion's own Onyx missiles, rebalancing the range equation. The battle for initiative. When the first explosions shook Crimea before dawn, it wasn't just the peninsula trembling. It was the foundation of a strategy built on assured denial. If Russia must now fight with one eye on its rear, repositioning, reinforcing, second-guessing its own maps, it loses the advantage of initiative. Each new protective move costs time, manpower, and focus. The Black Sea, once considered a fortified Russian lake, is now a battleground of endurance and innovation. Ukraine's targets may be varied: missile brigades, control nodes, oil pumps, but the message is uniform. No shield is absolute. Every fortress can be mapped. Every range advantage can be neutralized. The explosions that began before dawn were just the smoke. The real detonation will come when Russia redraws its maps and realizes its once iron bubble over the Black Sea has quietly shrunk.